hit the little blue button at the top that says that you know that it's being recorded. Myself up there.
Yeah, I don't have it.
What'd you say, Barb?
It's not showing up.
The
I can
PowerPoint?
see. Yeah, the PowerPoint I have, I don't have that, little box that says whatever it says about the
Oh,
recording.
it didn't say recording. Maybe it doesn't do that anymore. Did other people get that?
Oh, actually, on the top corner, it has record, and the red button is blinking.
Good. All right, so it shows you it's recording. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to talk. So last month we did a training on parent-child interaction therapy. I think that was last month. And Corinne Falgaris did that with Ashton Agentis, and they did a fantastic job. And one of the pieces of that was this pride model. Okay. So I wanted to really apply that to what we do because we've been talking about narration of sessions for many, many years. This is a way to really do that effectively. And I made sure for those of you who work with older kids, higher functioning kids, group services, there's examples throughout this that make it applicable to those services as well. So my tagline for this is to be or not to be like Bob Ross. You can probably guess which way I'm going to go with that, but we'll learn more about why that is the also known as title. So some quick housekeeping. So please, if you at any point talk during the training, including in the chat, do not include even client initials or names. But usually we kind of stay kind of general. If everybody could hit mute just to make sure none of that background noise is coming through, that'd be fantastic. Second thing, training's being recorded as always, because we do post this later. The post test must be done in order for you to count this towards your annual training hours. If you're just doing it for funsies and you already have all of your hours, fantastic. But if you're doing the post test, you have to, or if you need the credit, you have to do the post test. And very important, new to this training, we've never done this before, but this training is going to have several times where you need to be actually writing things down because those answers will have to be written on your post test. So if you have some sort of writing implement handy that you can be taking kind of notes as we go, it's not going to be anything super extreme, but that you will need those answers in order to do the post test. All right, so the Mandalorian says this is the way. So this is our quick, just kind of snapshot of what the pride model is. And you'll see that I've added L, and I couldn't work that into pride in any way effectively. And I also didn't want to change it, but I did want to add the L. So pride, the P is for praise, okay? And we want specific labeled praise. And we'll talk about that. We're going to break each of these down. We want to reflect on the words of the child or the kind of vocal behavior of the child. We want to imitate their actions. So we want to kind of do what they're doing. We want to describe what they're doing. So both of those things pertain to the actions of the child. And we want to enjoy with enthusiasm, right? So there's kind of two E's. I think in the training that Corinne did, she kind of focused on enthusiasm, but I also love the enjoy part, so we want to do both those things. And then finally, L, that's the one I stuck in here to make it even kind of more ABA focused and more kind of in line with what we do, labeling, right? So labeling things in the environment. So we're going to talk about each of those ones kind of one at a time. So P is for praise, and this is supposed to move, but this is the Hercules. It's just gonna make me laugh for a few seconds. Okay, I'm good. All right. So in order to be able to effectively praise the kids that we're working with, we have to be vigilant. How many times have you heard me and Gina and Ashley and all of us kind of say this? But this is absolutely key. Right? If you're sitting on the other side of the room, looking at your phone, looking at your notebook, this is my downfall, is that I'm hanging out with the other kids. Like when I'm doing an observation, I'm like, oh, look at all these fun little kids. And I'm paying attention here and I'm missing what our kid is doing. Don't be like me in that respect. But so don't allow distractions to pull you away, boredom, any of those things. You've got to be vigilant so that you can be watching for specific behaviors that you can provide directed praise for. Okay. So I wouldn't just look at Michelle and say, hey, nice job, Michelle, right? I would want to be really specific about that. I want to say, love the way you're sitting. I love that sweater. Your hair looks great today. Thank you for having a pen, a pen and paper ready, right? So I'm really keying into specific things. I'm remembering shaping and differential reinforcement, right? So Rome wasn't built in a day. You've got to shape that process. So I might not be able to praise like, oh, I love the way you asked so nicely for blah, blah, blah. I love the way you used a full sentence. Some of our kids are not going to be there. So we got to say, where are they now? And what's an approximation towards where we want them to be, right? So the kids usually throwing stuff at me, and Michelle usually like chucks pencils at me, which is one of my biggest fears. And today she's just slamming the table when she's upset. I can praise that. Yeah, I love the way that you're telling me that you're upset. Thank you for slamming the table to communicate that, right? That seems counterintuitive, but it's not. That's why I say it. Basically, every training, you have to, kind of reinforce approximations. And differential reinforcement, like I can give huge amounts of attention, praise reinforcers for higher level, more independent responses. And I can pull to kind of more low level, just kind of like, hey, nice job. Love the way you're sitting, to kind of stuff that's a little bit more neutral. So you want to remember those things. Some examples. I love the way you put those pieces of the train together. Nice job combing your hair, right? Real specific. Thank you for throwing away your tissue, right? Something like they're automatically did. Well, why would I thank them for throwing away their tissue? Well, because you really need to be doing like, the research varies, right? We've talked about this, but like 7 praises to every correction. So if you want to get those praises in, you need to be praising them, as Julie says, for breathing, right? So breathing is a good behavior. So, you really have to sometimes reach. I love the way you're sitting during circle time. I really like the way you use different voices when you were telling a story, right? So this isn't just for like little nonverbal or emerging verbal kids. This is for everybody. This is how we should approach staff. I love the way you turned your notes in on time. I love the way that you sat right next to the kid during, like, this has nothing to do with autism or little kids. This works across the board. So that's our first piece. Okay. Hopefully this one comes pretty natural, pretty easy for everybody. Because we should already kind of be doing that. All right. So the R is for reflect. A reflection of vocal behavior. So for some of our kids, that's going to be full sentences, stories, elaborations. For some of our kids, that's going to be noises, right? Some of our kids you can't do this with because they're not engaging in any vocal behavior, right? So kids that have no vocal behavior, this won't work for them, right? So you do pied instead of pride until they get a little bit of vocal language. Right. So this first step, same as before, right? You got to be vigilant. You have to be listening to the sounds they're making, aware of the sounds and words and kinds of language they're using, because you really want to know like where they are. This is why we use a lot of the assessments that we do, like the VB map and things like that, the SSIS even, because we want to know what they can do verbally, right? So this is where like I've had this happen multiple times where I've had staff kind of tell me about this kid that was super verbal, and then I met them and I started talking to them and asking them questions, and they didn't respond to me. I'm like, okay, you painted a very different picture of this kid than what I'm seeing. This kid, that doesn't make them nonverbal, but it certainly makes them kind of what I kind of refer to, like functionally nonverbal, right? Like if they can't engage in any kind of conversation whatsoever, maybe they would run up to me if they needed something, right? But so we want to like look at where they are so that we can watch that, and then we can use that when we're reflecting. So the beginning of reflecting is really kind of mimicking, echoing the sounds that they're making, the words that they're making. So saying kind of the same thing back to them. But you do kind of like in all things, like like the cotton candy that I talk about sometimes, you want to kind of pull it apart, right? You want to expand it. So you want to say, what are they saying now? And what's the next kind of level of that? And how can I add to what they're doing, right? So we're going to reflect that language. And this is Michelle sitting in here with me, and she's trained in the psychology world, you know, so like reflective language is like a big thing. So you're saying what I'm hearing, you know, so it's kind of like paraphrasing, but with a lot of our kids, you actually are just going to be repeating kind of what they say, right? So a kid who's kind of just saying you might just say like in a playful kind of way, or you might go like amazing, right? So you can kind of like pull it apart a little bit, but you're still reflecting that language. It shows you end up with this, you know, joint attention, right? You're both doing the same thing, you know, that kind of like parallel, no, not parallel, interactive kind of play. They say, I go potty, and you say, you went potty. Oh my gosh, you went potty, right? So like reflecting that language, but again, pulling it out a little bit more, adding to it, making it a little bit more complex. They say yuck, you say, ew, yuck. You do not like broccoli, right? So like this kind of actually goes into like later things that we're going to talk about. It adds in some of those pieces of like you're describing what's going on. But you know, you're really that yuck is still kind of mirrored in there. And you're pulling it out. I'm going to the mall this weekend. Oh, you're going to the mall? Like, what are you shopping for? What are you going to find there? Right. So again, you're repeating what they said, even in this instance where this kid is kind of conversational in this case. Right. So you're showing that kind of shared attention, and you're kind of building that kind of rapport and connection. All right, so
I just want to make one quick connection for like when they do this in PCIT, that last one, they would not ask that question because that would be labeled as a demand. But for us and what we're doing, we may be able to utilize that and ask that question and make it, you know, a continuation of their skill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, always being careful of that, right? Like you don't want to turn something that's fun and engaging into something that's difficult and problematic. Good point. Thank you, Ashley. All right, so now we're at I. I is for imitate, right? So this is very similar to the last one, but with actions as opposed to vocal behavior. Once again, we're vigilantly watching them. If you're not looking at them, you can't imitate what they're doing. Okay, so we want to be watching, like, okay, what sort of movements do they make? You know, what do they do when they're happy? You know, so we can kind of then imitate those actions unless they're dangerous or inappropriate. And that kind of, you know, like kind of goes across the board. And one of the people on here was telling me the other day a story about a kid who's playing this game at recess, and the teachers consider it inappropriate, right? Like they've figured out like they don't like do any kind of like they're not pretending like they're killing each other or fighting with guns or swords because you're not allowed to do that at schools anymore, unfortunately or fortunately, or however you kind of view that. So they're playing this game where they're like, you know, like sending them to like these terrible alternate realities, and one of them is like a P world, right? Like you're forever stuck in P. And we were playing this game with this kid because it was hilarious, and they're little boys, and they were following the rules. One of the teachers was really annoyed. Okay, so we have to be aware of that. But I stand by. I think that was a fantastic use of our time. But yeah, so we're imitating those interactions. We're kind of being a part of that. You know, we're kind of doing this kind of like mirror game over here, where we're kind of reflecting what they're doing action-wise. And again, we're going to imitate and we're going to try to expand. We're going to see where they're at. We're going to see where they want to go. And we're going to think of it like a task list, like we always do. And we're going to say, what could we add? What could we put in there that would make it more fun, more engaging, more, you know, powerful, more connective, all those sorts of things, right? So some examples, you know, the kid hides under a blanket for whatever reason. We don't know, right? So it came up with a you know, before and an after thing. So the kid hides under the blanket. So you might hide under the blanket, then peek out and say, boo, right? And you might get the kid to start doing that, or the kid to start like startling a little bit in a fun way, right? If you realize you're scaring them, then you say, oh, okay, wrong, whoopsie, right? That happens, right? I once turned kids upside down because I have great experiences with turning kids upside down. They love it. He did not like it at all, right? So then I didn't do that again, right? You live and you learn. Or, right, you say they hide under the blanket and then you go, ah, and then you hide under the blanket, right? You kind of turn this kind of little single piece repertoire into something that might possibly become a play routine or chain. Oh, we talked about that before, didn't we? Yes, we did, right? They expand on each other. It's almost like you did it on purpose, Rob and Ashley and Julie and Gina. You've caught on to our secret plan. So they jump up and down, you jump up and down together, right? You might start saying like boing, 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 or woo, you might add some like vocal stuff in there. And this is where like you sometimes see these amazing freebies. The kids never said anything before, right? And you're saying boing, 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 and they start going buh, 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 and you're like, right? It happens. There's only like 10 of us on this call, and I bet several people on this call, I've seen it happen before. I bet other people have seen it happen too. They're crawling around like a puppy. Maybe they're barking, or maybe they're just crawling, and it's because they like dogs. So you crawl around. You got to crawl around on the floor. Yeah, you do, right? Have some fun. And maybe we bark and we sniff around, and maybe you sniff the kid's stinky feet. You make it fun. Now, if you're working with an 18-year-old, don't sniff their feet. That's, hopefully we can draw those boundaries. But if you're working with a little kid, don't sniff the kid's feet at after school. Just making sure that I clarify that. I don't even know where the age would be, somewhere around 7 or 8, probably stops sniffing their stinky feet. I don't know. They do a part of a TikTok dance. We'll do the part of the TikTok dance with them, and then maybe even help them, do it with higher fidelity, right? So do it a little more truer to what they're doing, unless the kid has it perfect, which they might. Add more steps in, put the music on, right? So kind of build that, but imitate that. Don't just be like, oh, TikTok sucks, it's ruining the world. That's neither the time nor the place to kind of bring that into the conversation. So we're imitating. So that's the I. Halfway through. D is for describe, right? So there's Bob Ross, right? So Bob Ross is the ultimate narrator. A little happy little tree here, and everything. He didn't just sit there. Nobody would watch that show. Maybe they would because of his, his just kind of energy. But like we watch that because he's talking the whole time, and it's wonderful. He's narrating everything he's doing. He's telling you how to do it, but he's narrating the whole time. He's describing what's going on. Okay. You need to be Bob Ross, right? So here's the, there's the answer. If you didn't know from before, to be or not to be like Bob Ross, the answer is be like Bob Ross. And I'm just thinking in my head, I just have code word clues in here, and I forgot what I didn't think of what the clue, so I'll think of them in my brain. That's happening right now. So we're going to describe, right? So again, be vigilant, right? You got to watch what's going on in the environment. You can't describe something that you don't see, right? So if you're staring at your phone, do not stare at your phone. Put your phones away. Right? Do not be just staring at your notes the whole time, taking notes or looking at the treatment plan or staring, talking to the teacher or whatever it might be. You got to really spend the majority of the time being really vigilant with the kid. So that you can watch what they're doing and describe it as it unfolds, right? Oh, you're running fast. Oh, look at that big jump. All these sorts of things as they come. And you got to be excited about it. You cannot do this if Bob Ross is just like, I'm painting a tree here. It will be 3 inches tall. I'm painting it brown, right? Would you watch that? Probably not. Maybe you don't like Bob Ross. I don't know what's wrong with you if that's the case, but he wouldn't be so popular if he did it in a non-excited way. I know that I'm skipping to the E, but like in all things, we must be excited and engaged and enjoy what's going on, right? So we're going to use language close to what the client uses, right? So you want to expand, but you always want it, so if they're nonverbal, you can't, like, I'm not saying don't use like your full repertoire of language, but like, you want to stick close to what you hope they're going to be saying in the near future, right? You can kind of expand from there a little bit too, but you really want to stick to words that hopefully they'll be using in the next year, 2 years, or whatever, because your hope is that they're here, they're hearing what you're saying and they might start adopting some of it. And use lots of repetition, right? It's okay to say the same things over and over again, right? Oh, you're still coloring. This coloring is so cool. Look at you coloring, right? You're saying the same thing. That's okay. Unless they seem annoyed, they're pushing you away, they're screaming or whatever, you're ruining so always be mindful, be vigilant of that, see, but I'm not seeing that happen usually. Some of the kids get annoyed by me, especially the older, higher functioning ones for sure. Because I'm cringy, as you probably all know. But when I'm with little kids, for the most part, lots of that repetition is, and I'll say for like, higher, kind of older kids, group services, repetition of activities is absolutely key. Like every time we meet in group, there's 2 or 3 things we do every single time, right? You can't expect them to be using things outside of group or any situation if you're not doing them repeatedly, because they're not going to have the practice to do it. So some examples, they're bouncing on a yoga ball and you say, look at you bouncing, bouncy, 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 right? So repetition, you're explaining what they're doing. Yeah, a lot of overlap between these things. You're like, Rob, this sounds a lot like what you just said, and reflect. Not really, because they're not making any vocal language, but yeah, they all tie together on purpose, right? You might be like, oh, am I doing P or am I doing D? It doesn't matter, right? If you're doing one of them, you might be doing multiple. That's fine. They're squishing Play-Doh with a finger, and you say, oh, you stuck your finger in the Play-Doh, squish, like making it fun, describing what they're doing. They're stomping around like a dinosaur, and you go, dino, 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 dino. That's again one where like you could say like, oh, you're stomping around like a dinosaur. Look at the scary dinosaur. You maybe still want to do that, right? But you might also want to do this dino, dino, because you're using repetition of language that they might soon pick up. If they're nonverbal, they might start chanting that or saying something similar. You want to kind of go towards that. They draw a castle. You say, whoa, look at that castle. I wonder who lives there, right? And back to Ashley's point, right? We're not PCIT, right? We're using the PCIT model and pulling it in, right? But recognize that if you say, I wonder who lives there, that's a demand. You're asking them a WH question. Now, they might not, if they're not, they might be like really limited verbally. You don't think they're actually going to answer this question. You're just kind of describing what's going on. Those are kind of 2 different things. But there is, language does have some like demand element to it, especially when there's a question involved. So just be super, super mindful of that. And thinking about like what your ratio of like demands to just reinforcement is. Okay, here's Bob Ross. So code word number 1. We'll do my favorite colors today. I don't think we've done this. Favorite colors of, just do favorite colors, right? So we're going to start with, I think we've done this one before, but that's all right. So my first, and this is my favorite color, is maroon, right? So code word number 1, maroon, MAROON. All right, so that's your first code word. And let's move on to E. E is for enjoy and show enthusiasm in all of your engagements. Okay, so so again, most of you guys interviewed. I was in your interview, or the people who interviewed you have done interviews with me. I've been very clear with anyone in my 6 programs, our 6 programs, what I expect out of an interview. And from minute 1, I'm saying you got to be fun. Right? You've got to be engaging. It's not a, It has to be, right? That is part of your job. So in order to do that, you really have to find a way that you can enjoy your sessions and show that enthusiasm in everything you do. And Ashley found this fantastic quote on the PCIT website: children are less likely to play with adults who do not appear to be happy spending time with them. Okay. So you don't actually have to be, you just have to appear to be, right? And I know that sounds like, oh, then I'm being fake. Okay, well, fake it until you make it. If you fake it long enough, you will start to enjoy it. If you go to work, like if you're going to go to work and you're going to look bored and annoyed, then I would much rather you be fake, or you can't work here. Like you just can't be working with kids and look bored, you know, or pissed off or whatever it might be. Because they're going to be less likely to engage with you. So you got to be fun, got to be enjoying. So think about what your face is saying, right? Use a mirror if you need to. Ask other people. Think about what your tone is saying, right? I mean, just think about Miss Rachel, right? Like, is anybody watching Miss Rachel and thinking like, I'm sure people are saying like, oh, she's so fake, right? I'm sure people are saying that, but you know, screw that, right? She's not. She's not. But even if she were, to me, and the kids love her and the kids are having fun with her, right? That's you don't have to be this much, right? But you got to think about this. Like, you know, she's thinking about her face and her tone always, right? This job is performative. I'm sorry to like drop that on you guys, but like when you're in front of other people, you got to put it on a little bit. Easy for you to say, Rob, you had a theater background. Okay, yeah, well, you know, you guys can all take a theater class too. I wasn't a theater major. I just did a little bit of it. So are you yawning? What does that tell people? Are you looking at your phone? What does that tell people? It certainly doesn't make it look like you're enjoying and being an enthusiastic part of the session. If you're bored, they're almost certainly bored too, right? So if you're doing an activity, you're doing an interaction, and you're like, oh, this is so boring. The one exception for Rob Harvey, and probably for many of you, is babies just like to do the same thing hundreds of times, right? So I do get a little bit bored. I don't think the kid knows. I hope the kid doesn't know. I don't think they do. I keep doing the thing. I do try to keep expanding it, right? But I do get bored with that repetition, right? Like there is a lot of like, how many times can you play peekaboo? Just remember that you're connecting synapses and all that kind of stuff with the kid, and you're developing exactly what you want to do. And always thinking about making it fun. So I'm going to show you, this is the only one that gets an example. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch back over to, if you don't want your faces in the video, you should turn off your camera right now for a second, because I have to stop sharing and then start sharing. And I think that will actually record your screens. 3, 2, 1. If your camera's not off, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, but you guys are all up on the top anyway, just a little tiny. Oh, Danielle. Hey, buddy. All right. So share. I got lots of videos, so bear with me. Make sure I got the right one. And if you can't, like, once I start playing it, if you can't hear it, just kind of, you'll have to kind of yell out to me. But I think let me just, now I'm second guessing myself. Did I check the boxes? Yes. Okay. So we're gonna watch Snoop Dogg showing you how to enjoy behavior of a child.
Clean up, clean, clean, clean. That's gonna be a good human being. Clean, 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 yeah. Clean, 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 yeah. I clean my room when I'm done with play. Pick up my toys and I put them away. I'm fresh all day, I clean all night. I wash my plate, not crumb in sight. I help my mom, I help my dad. I tell my friend, pick up your trash. I wash my hands, I brush my teeth. I'm always clean, I'm always neat.
Oh, no. All right, so back to the PowerPoint. That to me is just this beautiful example, like how happy and proud, and you know, it's just wonderful. Like I can't possibly be making that up. He is loving every second of that, right? So that's That's the kind of enthusiasm that I want. And that's not hard. That's not like Miss Rachel. That's not super performative. He's just dancing along and smiling and just showing his joy, right? So yeah. So do that. Do that. Be like Bob Ross. Be like Snoop Dogg in that way. There's some other questionable ones. Ashley, that shared okay? Like you can hear the sound, see it, everything all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so our last letter is L. So this is the one that I added in. So this is L for labeling. We call that kind of tacting, but you know, we're gonna use L. It's for labeling stimuli in the environment throughout the session. Okay, so we're just labeling things in the room, in the field, in the playground, at the school, wherever you are. You're just kind of keeping this running dialogue, right? So if the kid isn't really doing anything, you can be describing the stuff that's around you. Or as they're doing things, you can be describing stuff. Here we have, that's Bluey, she's swimming. It kind of looks like she's flying, but you can tell she's got like I called it a horsefish yesterday. That is not what it is a seahorse. Either around her neck or in her mouth. But anyway, so you're keeping that running dialogue. This will increase the chances that they will start just kind of absorbing some tacts from you, right? Seems unlikely, but it happens, right? So they hear your language, they sometimes use it, and they might even pick up some spontaneous commands for this. So like you're like, oh, that's Bluey, she's swimming. And the kid says Bluey, and they want the thing, right? So they might pick up some kind of spontaneous mandate for that, you know, which would just be fantastic. That's not really spontaneous, but you know, untaught. So you want to especially focus on labeling things in the environment that they orient to, that you know they're interested in, that eventually they'll be manding for. So you know you can focus on everything, or you can label everything, all kinds of things. But like think about like a classroom. There's like thousands of tens of thousands of things in there. So I would focus on the things like as they're, if you watch them kind of looking around, kind of focus on the things that they're kind of pointed to or most interested in. So some examples, don't just stick with labeling things you can see. Use all of your tact senses. I smell cookies. Look at that airplane. Crocodile. That's a vacuum. Ooh, fuzzy. Red, sour, right? So, these kind of, again, energetic, enthusiastic kind of labels of things in the environment. And I didn't really do it in here, but use the repetition, so think about, you don't just label it once and then you're done for the day, again, and this is happening. You're saying like, well, Rob, I am kind of like labeling things as I'm describing. This is really like a sub, D, like it goes under describe, but I really wanted to put it in there because I think it is slightly separate and I thought it was important, right? Your language is often, kind of moves on to other people. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to watch a video from the PCIT people of someone doing all of these things except for label, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to get out your writing material, okay? And I want you to label your paper like down the left, right? So that you can kind of be tallying these things. And I want you to label praise, or I want you to write praise, reflect, imitate, describe, enjoy. Okay. And here's our man, BF Skinner, who I've been listening, as many of you know, I've been listening to verbal behavior, and I loved him before, and now I just have this even fonder appreciation for him. So he's going to look on us fondly as we take some data. So put pride, down the side or across the top. However, all you're doing is tallies. So as you're watching this session, it's about 3 minutes, I think. I want you to take tallies under each one that you notice. Okay, so he praised. It's a lady. She reflected. She imitated. She described. She enjoyed. So let me get the video. Boop, 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 boop. Share out of cute baby. How do I get out of cute baby? Ah, here we go. We need PCIT session.
Okay, Audrey, we're gonna have special playtime.
I'm playing right now.
You are playing right now. You can play with any of the toys on this table. You can see you're already smashing the purple Play-Doh on the table. I love the way you're just working so hard to smush that purple Play-Doh into a flat pancake. And now you look to be wrapping the pancake around the red block. Audrey, I love how you're paying such close attention to what you're doing with the Play-Doh. And you're putting a little yellow-hatted lady on top of the Play-Doh mound. You're stacking a yellow block on top of the Play-Doh.
Here, she goes on the tall statue that no one can reach.
That's a statue, and she goes on top of the statue, and nobody can reach it. What a creative thought, Audrey. I love your statue idea. Now you're adding more blocks to your statue. And your yellow woman is going to a different place on the statue.
I guess we have to do something fast with it.
Okay,
I won't.
you need to do something different with it. Now you're putting the purple Play-Doh on top of the green block. Audrey, this statue is very creative. You're trying to make her sit on top of the statue, and she stays. Now you're going to add a red block to the side of the statue. That's another red block on this statue. And a yellow block. That one fits just perfectly. Audrey, I'm so proud of you for finding just the right spot for that yellow block.
Now the pink one now.
Now you're going to open the pink one next.
Can I make it hair?
You're wondering if you can make hair.
I want it.
Sure, you can roll it.
And then put it on hair.
You're going to put it on her hair after you roll it. What a creative idea to make the pink Play-Doh into the lady's hair.
Because you don't have it.
Because she doesn't have any hair. Rolling the pink Play-Doh. Here, I'll roll the pink Play-Doh too. We're making hair for the girl who's sitting on top of your statue. We used all the pink Play-Doh to make hair. Audrey, I love how carefully you rolled out that long piece of hair, and now you're going to stick it on top of the girl. Wow, that hair is so beautiful and so long. And you're
Hey, we're going to stop there at 3 minutes. All right, so I'm going to start sharing the thing again. So I need my drivers to help me out a little bit here. So let's share some data. So what did we get for praise statements? I don't have the answers to this, full disclosure. But what did we get for praise? Michelle, what'd you get? How many? Yeah. 8 in the room. What do we got in Zoom world?
I got 8.
8.
Mm-hmm.
I also got 8.
I also got 8. I got 10.
All right, strong agreement. Reflect. How many reflects did we get?
7.
I have 5.
5.
I have 7.
7.
I have
6.
6, yeah.
All right, let's split the difference at 6. How many imitates did we have?
I have 4.
4.
I have 3, but in the beginning I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have been to that because there were so many other things going on. So I may have missed them.
There's a lot going on.
I had
All right,
1, but I couldn't see very well. So.
Okay. All right. So let's go with 3. So we had 7, 4, and 3. Is that our number so far that we agreed on? I think.
No, 8, 7, and
8.
Oh, 8, 4,
7, 3. 8, 7, 3. 8, 7, 3.
All right. Can you write that down, Michelle? All right, how many describes did we get? There's a
I
lot
have
of
14.
14,
I had 15.
15,
17.
17, 15,
I have 15.
15. All right, let's go with 16, Michelle. And then how many this is harder to track. Did anyone tally for enjoy?
I have 3. At
One,
least
three.
3.
I have 1.
5.
1, 5.
I didn't have any, but I feel like I missed some.
Yeah,
I have,
yeah,
Babe.
she was kind of enjoying and enthusiastic in all of her interactions, I think.
Mhm.
All right, so let's put 3 for that one. It sounded like so Michelle, give me our numbers. 8,
7, 3,
18,
16, and 3.
21, 37. Okay, so 37 of these statements in a 3-minute period. Okay, so you could, run that math in your head, but that's a pretty high number. Now, some of you have been watching that and thinking like, oh boy, like I don't think I could do that. Well, you could if you practice, right? And not all settings are going to be appropriate for that. If everybody could hit mute on their videos again.
Everett, I can't have you do
Hey,
that.
Barb, can you hit mute for me?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Like not all settings or kids are going to be appropriate for this, right? Like it would be obnoxious for some kids. It would be demanding for some kids. You can't just be doing this in the middle of a classroom when they're like in a lesson, right? But you need to make sure you're having opportunities to be able to do this at that rate. So practice it. All right. Okay, you already did that. All right, Bob Ross, he's back already. All right, so second code word, we're gonna go with sky blue. All right, so code word number 2 is sky blue. Sky blue. All right, so why are we doing this? Okay, so what are the benefits of this? Let's get some buy-in here. Why is Grover so amazed? Well, let me tell you. Okay, so I found some ABA literature that's cited in the end that actually references this pride model and shows direct positive effects on client acquisition. Okay, there's 2 articles. One of them specifically kind of breaks out the pride model. So I was excited to see that. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't even realize what I had found until I was reading through it. And it really just acts as like a pairing kind of activity, right? So they referred to it as pre-session pairing, but this is really kind of an ongoing kind of thing. We, like, as I said before, like you as part of your job, when you're working with kids in our care, it is a requirement that you are engaged with the kid. If you're doing these things, you're checking that box, right? Because it involves you attending, orienting, interacting, all the things we want you to do in an enjoyable manner. So this is helping you meet your job responsibilities, is doing this. Parents love it. There's nothing that a parent loves more than seeing their kid having fun, So, and they see you smiling and, they might say like, another person who's on this meeting had a parent the other day say like, why are you always smiling? So there is some circumstances where, different families are different, but I would argue that even in that case, they still enjoy seeing you be happy with their kid and their kid be happy with you. It pairs language and it shows these freebie skills. And I linked episode 278 of the Behavioral Observations podcast in the resources at the end. But Dr. Jim Moore talks about the center that he's working on, the kids he's working with. And he's showed by taking data of how often his staff are using just like this narration of service. He was really just tracking how often his staff do that, but they were showing without any kind of teaching, they were showing these drastic spikes of increase of child language just because we were talking more around them. And this is kind of like known research, like they show like, you know, when parents talk more around their kids, they develop language faster. So this is not like you know, the families of the kids we work with don't talk around their kids. It's not like a blame thing. It's just to say that like, if we do this, we might get a lot of this freebie learning with these kids who like, we thought like maybe they wouldn't talk and maybe they were having a hard time getting to the table. That's a future topic of like, we got to get these kids to that table time, but I digress. Listen to that podcast, but if not, just know that using this PRIDE model leads to this kind of, you know, language acquisition. You know, it's not actually for free. I'm saying they're freebies. There's, you know, effort that you guys have to do this, right? That constant talking is not super easy. And it sets up lots of potential opportunities for you to reinforce the kids' behavior, right? So you're there with them, you're kind of saying things, and as you point to the airplane, right? And you say airplane and they look up, they attend in the direction of the airplane. You'd be like, good looking. Look, you're looking up at the airplane, right? So you created this opportunity that now you can reinforce. You say big blue ball and they say ba, and you're like, you said you're talking like me. That is a big blue ball, you know, like you can just kind of have those opportunities to just kind of find ways to, you know, so you don't have to praise them for breathing. You can praise them for things that are closer to where you kind of want to be, right? And this again, like this is where I should have put the kind of like group example, but this is where like, even though sometimes the kids act like they're annoyed when I'm talking so much in group, like they are picking up on stuff without me having to discreetly teach it, right? They're just kind of like, oh, he said that. I noticed them using language that I'm using. It just happens, right? Like we kind of do that. So the more you talk, the more chances you have for that to happen. All right, so the rest of the training is practicing what we just learned. Right? So we want to get better about application. We want to get better about knowing that you guys can do the skills we're teaching. So I'm going to show you 7 videos, right? So we're going to do one skill at a time, and then we're going to look at one and we're going to try to put all the skills together. Okay, so you need that piece of paper and your writing implement again. Okay, so we're going to go in order. Okay, we're going to start with praise and we're going to watch, and I know some of you are like, why didn't you just embed these videos, Rob? Well, I tried and it didn't. So we're going to watch the first video. Let's see, here. Okay, this is them. All right, so you're going to see an older kid and some younger kids, and I want you to, as you're watching this, just write down one example of something you could say as a praise statement of a specific behavior. All right, that's a quick one. Super quick. All right, so I think we probably do this without stopping sharing. So give me some thoughts. What could you praise in that little tiny quick clip? I do have to stop sharing because I have to go back and see what's next. What'd you see? What'd you like?
I love how you were playing with your sister.
Yeah, love how you're playing with your sister. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I should have clarified. I want you to look at the older child's behavior. Any other thoughts?
You could also say, I love how you're smiling while you're playing, you know, you're something along those lines. He was very happy when he was doing it.
Yep. Cool dinosaur roar, you know. Looked like he was being a T-Rex or something.
Oh, Rob, it was playing music.
Yes.
Okay. There was
he
a
doesn't
dinosaur roar?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, you can't hear him roar. I just assumed he probably was. I'm just like, I'm imagining other stuff that's going on there.
Rob, it's an Indian song.
Yeah, that's what I thought probably. So I picked this clip specifically because I looked at this behavior and I thought probably some people would see this and be like, oh, you know, you're scaring them, or oh, you know, don't play like that, or
How gentle you were.
ooh, I like how gentle you were. Yeah. Super, yeah, super conservative, like didn't like run up to them or knock them over or touch them, you know? Yeah, I agree. I just think like I look at things like this and I think of all this, like a parent sitting on, not engaged, sitting on a bench somewhere and saying like, hey, stop playing with those little girls, or oh, you know, you're scaring them. But yeah, good. So there's lots of things in there that you can praise. I wanted to make it a little bit challenging. All right, so we're gonna watch this little boy. And now we're going to reflect. So you're looking at the little boy's behavior. He's talking to Steve Harvey, no relation. Everybody thinks that joke's hilarious. I'm not related to Steve Harvey. Let's see. Share. Boom, boom. Where's the little boy? Up here. All right, so listening to what he says and thinking of what you could say, reflect.
What are your duties as the mayor?
I shake everybody's hands.
Okay. How are we reflecting his language? This is an easier one. Michelle.
You shake everybody's hand?
You shake everybody's hands. Yeah, that's super easy, right? Anybody have any idea? Anybody write anything else down of something you might expand it with?
You shake it. Well, I would go into to a praise then. You shake everyone's hand. You sound so excited about that.
Yeah. Good. I might expand it to say like you shake everybody's hands, like all the mommies and daddies and babies and dogs, you know, like I would, you know, for this little boy who clearly has, you know, pretty good verbal repertoire, you know, I might go and do a little bit of like, you know, make it a little, you know, have a little bit of fun with it. All right, good. That one's pretty easy. Next up. All right, so now we're gonna look at imitating. All right, this is another really quick one. So you're gonna watch this little baby in this pool thing. And I want you to think of specific babies, behaviors you could imitate. Switching back and forth between these shares. Boop, boop, boop. Where is baby? Mel. There they are.
我爱洗澡，乌龟跌倒，小心跳着好多泡泡，潜水艇在等。
All right, it's kind of hard. The baby's just floating in the water. You know, there's not a lot of opportunity for the baby's kind of restricted motion. So how are we gonna imitate this baby's behaviors?
He did some like bouncing.
Yeah, you can bounce up and down. Yep. Beautiful. There's at least one more thing. There's two
How many
more.
arm movements?
Yeah. Yes, that kind of like water. You could put your hand in there and splash the water like the baby is doing, but just that kind of like arms up and down movement for sure. At the end,
You could put your arms out and spin too, because they started to spin while you're smiling.
yeah.
little bit
I was
of
gonna say
kick-
maybe facial expressions you can imitate.
Yes.
and also
Beautiful.
kicking, I think.
Yeah, there's got to be some kicking going on under that water for sure. Yep. Good. Yeah, nice job. You guys killing it. All right, describe. Okay, so we're gonna watch this little kid on the playground for a few seconds. And I want you to think of some descriptive phrases you could use for what you see going on. Share. 5 minutes, around 5 minutes. Fun in the sun.
Go down the slide, buddy. Okay. Ta-da. Good job.
So you heard I assume it's dad. You hear him in there doing some great statements. But what could we do to describe what's going on with this little kid and his GoPro or whatever it is that's recording this?
Tell the child you're walking up the steps and you're going to slide down the slide.
Yeah, walking down the slide. Yep. That's probably about all of them. That's all you really see.
You could describe, wow, you went down the slide, you're twisting down the slide. Because
Yes.
you know what the slide looks like on the outside.
Yes.
And also
Beautiful.
you're climbing up the steps so quickly. I love the way you're going up quickly.
I love that. Gayatri, you gave us a twofer there. You described and praised, right? And enjoyed. You did all the things there. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
You could say something like, you went down so fast.
Yes. Adverbs about what's going on, right? More description. Love it. Good. All right. These are really cute videos, but I think I'm going to skip them just because I don't want to run out of time to do the full put together. But it's just like a little cute baby laughing, right? And a little boy running in slow motion from third base to home. And I was just wondering how you could enjoy that, and enjoying things is really just in the voice, in your smile, all that. All right. So here's the last one we're gonna do. We're gonna look at labeling. So we're gonna look at a few videos of environments, and I want you to just jot down something you could say as you see one. I'm not gonna show you all of them, but it's like they're panning around these kind of cool classrooms that people have put together. Where is it? I thought Oh, Mufasa movie!
They became legends.
There we go. Go pretty quick, so. All right. What do we notice in any of them? What are some things you could label as if you were working with a kid in one of these rooms?
A rock wall.
Yeah, look at that rock wall. What else do we see?
That very first one I caught there was an eye and a nose. You could label those and like point to your own eye and nose too.
Yes. Oh, nice, Robin.
The ship ball pit.
The ship ball pit. That was cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to get to the last slide. So I don't, as much as I want to have you guys put it together, maybe I will send the link and you'll have to do a little extra homework and watch this very short video of Andy playing with his toys and put together pride for the whole statement. But Bob Ross, your final color is heather gray, which is kind of the color of my sweater today. So code word number 3 is heather gray. Heather gray. All right, so the last slide here before the resources, which Ashley will help me remember to send out, is just, I really want to recognize that these trainings have like a real purpose, right? The purpose of these trainings is to make you better at what you do so that we can change the world, right? That is the amazing kind of weight that's on our shoulders as people that work with other people. So I need you to think about how this will change your practice. I need you to discuss with your teams what rate at which you should be kind of like, how are you going to use this pride model, right? To benefit, how often should you be using? We looked at that, that woman who had a really high ratio. So what should yours look like? What's your baseline now? and compare it to progress. And remember, our ultimate, guru, Mr. Rogers, like he said, and, whenever he saw scary things in the news, this is like, I thought this was a Julie quote, but Julie was quoting Mr. Rogers, but she'd say, look for the helpers. There's always people that are helping. That is us. That is you guys, right? We are the helpers. But in order to be those helpers, we have to help. We have to get better. We have to keep learning. And this is a way that we can really kind of do that. So make sure you hold on to your answers so that you can fill out the post test. I think I will have you watch that last video just to do an additional one. And good luck using this in your sessions. Bring it to supervision. And yeah, have a great day.